The National Park Service celebrates its centennial this year, and what a first 100 years it has been. Over 400 areas, more than 80 million acres of some of the most majestic land and sea this planet has to offer. In a moment, we'll premiere a brand new episode in our series on America's national parks and venture deep into the heart of the Grand Canyon. But first, a very special guest. On his recent visit to Yosemite National Park, President Obama granted National Geographic an exclusive interview. The president is a big believer in setting aside land for preservation. In fact, he has protected more land and sea for the public than any president in history.
Richard, how are you?
Good, thank you, Mr. President.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. What a beautiful place to meet.
And could not be a nicer day.
It couldn't be a nicer day. As the president and I walked around Yosemite's pristine forest together, he shared how he found his passion for wild places.
This is as spectacular a setting as there is anywhere in America, anywhere in the world.
I imagine you love being here.
I really do. You know, I grew up in Hawaii, which obviously is one of the most beautiful places in the world and makes you appreciate the great outdoors. The first time I ever came to the mainland of the United States, I was traveling with my mom and my grandma, and we did this big tour around the country, but it ended in Yellowstone. And at 11 years old, it was the greatest experience of my life, and I still have unbelievably vivid memories of the first time I spotted a moose, or seeing a group of bison or elk or a bear. And I think the way a place like this imprints itself in you, especially when you're young and carries on for the rest of your life, is remarkable.
Well, two of your predecessors felt very much the same thing, didn't they? Teddy Roosevelt walked these very trails through these redwood trees, along with John Muir, the father of the American conservation movement. And these granite mountains, they lit a fire in it.
Yeah. Well, Teddy Roosevelt, one of my favorite presidents, certainly the president I envy most, because back then he would go to Yellowstone or Yosemite with a guide, maybe with one Secret Service agent on horseback. He'd spend a month or two just wandering around in the middle of his presidency.
Yeah.
So it's a little harder for me to move than it was for him, but you know, it's been said, and it's absolutely true, that this was maybe America's best idea.
Yeah.
The idea that these spaces are sacred, and that they are for everyone, not just for the few, and that you preserve them for future generations. And so for us to be able to celebrate 100 years of the National Park Service and all those who had the foresight to leave this behind for us, it's a great time.
The president also had his mind on the future of the park system and all the things that he can still accomplish in his remaining time in office. In the final months of your presidency, is it a sprint finish now?
You know, I've been sprinting the whole time. And there is a sense of urgency about trying to get as much done as you can. You know, we still have some designations that we've been working on.
There's more to come.
I think there's more to do. If we stay focused, we are in charge of the largest, most powerful organization on earth, and let's do some good with it, as long as we have the privilege of being in that position.
For more on the president's recent visit to Yosemite and a sneak peek of the first ever virtual reality video recorded of the president, go to natgeo.com/parksvr. But now, stay tuned for a special premiere presentation of America's national parks, the Grand Canyon.